Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a fascinating case study today, looking at how a well-known premium beverage company, well, how they cracked the code on expanding into some incredibly challenging emerging markets in Asia.
Right, and these were not easy places to enter. We're talking complex landscapes, significant hurdles, things that would make most companies really hesitate.
Absolutely. And the material we have, it gives us a really detailed look at their strategy, their execution.
Yeah, the whole journey.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to sort of figure out the key decisions they made, the specific obstacles they, powered through,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe some surprising insights, especially, like you said, how they did it without just pouring massive amounts of cash into building everything from scratch up front.
Which, as you know, is often the default. Build your own thing, control everything, big investment, big risk sometimes.
But this company, they took a different path, a decidedly different one,
Yeah, and it seems that path really hinged on one core idea.
finding the right partner.
Exactly, partnering up.
Okay, so let's paint the picture a bit more. This global premium brand, big ambitions for emerging Asia.
Right.
But it wasn't like their home turf, was it? Where they already had strong brand loyalty.
No, completely different ball game. The obstacles were huge. You've got really complex regulatory stuff.
A minefield, probably.
Totally. Then there's just the sheer complexity of distribution across these massive, diverse regions.
What?
And maybe the biggest thing, just building basic brand awareness, introducing a premium product to people who maybe haven't even heard of it before.
That initial lift.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mountain to climb.
And they were clear on the goal. Establish a strong foothold, yes, but, and this is key, without that huge upfront capital spend.
Right, building your own distribution, your own sales teams, that's incredibly expensive and risky in unfamiliar markets.
So this idea of a strategic partnership wasn't just like plan B.
No, it sounds like it became the core strategy, the way to manage that risk and cost. And they didn't just grab anyone off the street. Material highlights they teamed up with a leading regional distributor,
Yeah, someone already plugged in.
someone with an extensive retail network already there, deep on-the-ground market knowledge.
And maybe the clincher. Established relationships with the local regulators. That's gold.
So it wasn't just outsourcing logistics. It was about leverage.
Absolutely. Actively using that partner's position, their existing footprint, their connections.
To navigate those tricky barriers faster.
Exactly. Streamline operations right from the start
Mm.
and basically accelerate their market entry.
It also feels like they figured out a really smart division of labor. The beverage company could focus on what they do best, the branding, the consumer engagement.
While the partner handled all that critical, messy, on-the-ground stuff, the logistics maze, navigating the regulations we mentioned.
And actually executing the expansion strategy using their local muscle.
It's playing to strengths, right? A really smart way to operate.
Okay, so that's the what and the why. How did they actually do it? Let's get into the nuts and bolts, the methodology. Where did they start?
Well, it had to begin with research. Serious market research and competitive analysis.
Can't go in blind.
No way. Not in these markets. They undertook a really extensive initiative to understand the local nuances. Consumer preferences, price sensitivity, who the existing players were.
And it wasn't just reading reports, was it?
No, they got their hands dirty, deployed surveys, ran focus groups for those deeper insights, and did really thorough benchmarking against competitors.
What were they zeroing in on?
Really specific things according to the source. Popular local flavors, where the actual gaps in the market were, how distribution channels really worked.
Consumer habits, economic factors.
Social nuances affecting consumption,
Yeah.
Detailed patterns, everything.
That level of detail must have been crucial for tailoring their whole approach.
Absolutely. The outcome wasn't just information, it drove decisions. Refining the product itself, maybe different formulations, different packaging.
Tailoring the marketing messages.
Yep. And setting prices and branding that made sense locally, not just using a global template.
And that competitor analysis sounds really key too.
Oh, definitely. Looking at how rivals price things, their promotions, how they built loyalty.
Their positioning.
Exactly. It helped this premium brand figure out its own sweet spot premium, sure, but accessible and relevant in that specific context.
Okay, let's talk regulations again. You said it was complex. How did they actually tackle that beast?
It's a huge potential derailer. Stringent import rules, fiddly packaging, labeling laws.
Bureaucracy.
Oh, yeah. Layers of it. So the proactive step was smart. They brought in legal experts who specialize specifically in food and beverage regulations in those markets.
So they did a full audit before launching.
Looks like it. Identified potential roadblocks early, got the paperwork ready, but here's where the partner really shone again.
Leveraging those existing relationships.
Exactly. The distributor's connections with authorities apparently helped speed up approvals, things like certifications, health standards, label checks.
That kind of local insight can cut through so much red tape, save huge amounts of time, I bet.
Massive amounts. And the benefit is obvious. Avoiding legal problems, ensuring the launch actually happened on time.
And they kept monitoring it.
Yeah, regulations changed, so it had to be ongoing.
Okay, circling back to that partner. Choosing the right one sounds absolutely critical. How did they make that choice?
Yeah, this was make or break for the whole strategy, and they treated it seriously. It wasn't just who wants the business. They evaluated multiple potential distributors.
What were they looking for? What were the key criteria?
Things like their existing market reach, were they financially stable, did they have experience with premium brands before specifically beverages?
And could they actually handle the logistics?
Right, the nitty-gritty operational capability.
And this wasn't just looking at brochures, right? The material mentions, site visits, performance reviews.
The structured process, yeah.
Yeah.
Really digging in before committing.
So the final choice was based on solid evidence.
Seems so. They went with the one who had the best retail connections for their target customer, a proven ability to manage complex supply chains, and that track record with high-end brands.
And the negotiation wasn't just about price.
No, it sounds much more like building a long-term foundation, structuring a deal that was genuinely mutually beneficial.
Aligning incentives.
Exactly. Things like revenue sharing, maybe some co-branding, clear long-term goals, performance targets.
Incentives for expansion.
Yep. And clearly defined roles and responsibilities. No ambiguity.
A real partnership agreement.
Okay.
Partners on board. How do they get the word out? Build buzz.
Right, the joint marketing and branding. This needed a really smart, multifaceted approach, blending their global brand feel with the partner's local smarts.
So joint promotions, in-store stuff.
And a big push on digital, especially social media. That's where they really seem to lean into integrating cultural elements, using local influencers.
Making it feel authentic locally.
Precisely. You can't just drop a global campaign in and expect it to work everywhere.
Sounds like a mix of tactics was important.
Yeah, definitely. In-store sampling to get the taste out there, strong digital campaigns with relevant content and offers, but also using traditional TV and print where it still had reach.
Goals being?
Create excitement fast, but also build that longer-term loyalty.
Okay, marketing's running, partners in place. Now, the physical movement of goods. Supply chain and distribution optimization. Sounds crucial in these markets.
Absolutely critical, especially for premium products where quality control matters so much. This is where the partner's existing network was the backbone.
Leveraging their trucks, their warehouses.
For timely delivery, keeping shelves stocked across potentially huge areas.
And they layered tech onto that. Demand forecasting, inventory management.
Yes, moving towards a much more data-driven operation. Integrating data, using predictive analytics to anticipate demand shifts like seasonal changes.
Allowing them to adjust orders.
Right. Minimize waste, control costs, be more proactive.
So it wasn't just using the partner's physical stuff, it was adding intelligence.
Exactly. Better control over the whole chain, maintaining quality, and importantly, being able to scale up smoothly as things grew.
Okay, so they put all these pieces together. How did they track if it was actually working? Validate the success.
Constant monitoring. That seems key. They tracked performance really carefully, starting with consumer feedback and sales performance right after launch.
Surveys, sales data.
Yep. Analyzing sales figures, getting feedback directly from retailers who are on the front lines.
And using that feedback.
Actively. It wasn't just data for reports. They used the insights to make adjustments. Maybe introduce new flavors people were asking for, tweak packaging if it wasn't landing, refine the marketing messages.
Like a continuous improvement loop.
Exactly. They also benchmarked against competitors constantly.
See how they were stacking up.
Right. Tracking things like sales volume, market share growth compared to rivals, pricing competitiveness, customer retention.
Helping them spot weaknesses or opportunities.
Yeah, identify areas to improve, refine the strategy to get stronger.
And they didn't just monitor the market. They monitored the partner relationship itself.
Crucial. Regular retailer and partner performance reviews were baked into the process. You can't just set it and forget it with a partnership this central.
Makes sense. The whole strategy depended on it working well.
Totally. These regular reviews with the distributor were about continuous improvement, finding efficiencies in logistics, pushing sales growth, making the joint marketing even better.
Joint business reviews, collaborative problem solving.
Right. Addressing challenges together, optimizing routes, tweaking promotions, it all comes back to being data-driven and adjusting based on what's actually happening on the ground.
Okay, so after all this intense planning and execution,
Mhm.
what what were the results? What did they actually achieve according to the case study?
Well, the first big one, maybe the main goal, was market expansion with limited risk.
Because they leveraged the partner's existing setup,
Exactly. They bypassed that need for huge capital investment in infrastructure,
minimizing risk, gaining immediate access.
which meant a much faster, much more cost-effective market entry than if they'd tried to build it all themselves. Big win there.
They also got rapid brand recognition and customer adoption. That sounds impressive in new markets.
It really is. That mix of joint marketing, especially the local engagement and influencers, it clearly paid off. They got significant traction pretty quickly, like within the first year.
Wow.
And the partner getting them good shelf space definitely helped amplify that marketing buzz.
And the third achievement mentioned is operational efficiency and sustainable growth.
Right. This links back to the supply chain optimization, streamlined operations, using data for inventory,
Enhanced product availability, controlled costs.
and the partner's logistics expertise meant a consistent supply, fewer stockouts, less waste.
So not just a quick win, but building something lasting.
Exactly. It laid a foundation for long-term sustainable growth. It positioned them well to potentially expand into other product categories later on, really solidifying their place in the region.
So wrapping this all up then, the core lesson from this deep dive, it seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It's a fantastic example of how smart strategic partnerships, when combined with a really tailored, locally driven approach,
Backed by solid research.
and then just relentless tracking and adjusting with data,
Yeah.
how that can unlock serious growth even when you're facing really tough, complex market conditions.
It wasn't about having the deepest pockets.
No, it was about smart strategy, smart execution, and leveraging the right relationships effectively.
And why should you, listening, care? Well, it shows that breaking into challenging markets isn't always about building the biggest battleship yourself.
Right. Sometimes finding the best local guide and teaming up is the smarter way to navigate those waters.
It does leave you with a final thought, though.
Mhm.
How do companies really strike that balance? Leveraging all that crucial local expertise and infrastructure from a partner.
While still maintaining their global brand integrity, ensuring quality control, especially when they aren't directly managing every single detail on the ground. That's a really interesting tension, isn't it? Something to chew on beyond just this case study. How to get the best of both worlds.